Hi Sinead. Alright, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to where you were, what you did with the majority of your time there, an important day with the relationships and feelings involved, another important day, relationships and feelings, the death and lesson learned. And we will get hints of time throughout. And all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are going to be coming through and already coming through. And your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what comes through here and your current life. And I'll try to help how I can. Just keep in mind you could be making a couple of different types of connections. So for example, something may happen here that directly connects with who you are or what you experience in your current life. That'd be a direct connection. The opposite connection would be because your soul experienced something here, so it would be coming back into this life to experience the opposite or something very different. So just keep your ears and eyes open for that kind of thing to make those connections. All right? Okie doke, let's start. So the first place we're going, the first card is Africa. Now, when I was shuffling even, I get some stuff coming through already. And so when I put that down, I was kind of happy because it kind of matched. And it felt like what was coming through was, I guess what you would consider in Africa, like, you know, obviously there's like all these different, it's huge. But we're going up and we're going to near the Middle East. Now you might want to Google because I'm not 100% on like geography here, but it feels like we're going to the Middle East. So we're going like up and this way, I guess, well, for you, I don't know how you're seeing this. Anyways, I want to say north, and then where are they pointing me? They're going east. Thank you. Okay, I know my directions. Okay, northeast Africa feels like what we would consider the Middle East, and it feels like even when I was shuffling this, what was really cool, what was coming through was it felt like a life. This aspect we're looking at of you felt like a life at the times of, I want to say Jesus, or for lack of better words, like the time of the prophets. I guess there were people walking around and, you know, doing what Jesus did too. And so the only thing is they're using my internal library to pull forward images and certain things to tell me what we're looking at. So I say Jesus's time just because I'm aware of Jesus and I'm not really like, I don't know the Bible, I don't know all the people involved, so but I do know that there were other people besides Jesus walking around teaching, you know, love and all that good stuff too. So it could be that we're going to be coming across Jesus, or we're going to be coming across someone like him. So just keep your mind open to what connects with you. Now, if you have a connection with Jesus personally, that kind of thing, like whether you grew up religious or not, or whether you have come across him recently and you like the guy, that is for you to make the connection. So if that is a connection, take it and run with it. And if not, that's fine. That's why I feel like I don't want to like specifically be like, it's just Jesus, but it was the time. It was that time period. So, for example, a connection you could make besides the Jesus thing would be that period of time. If you have been intrigued of the ancient histories or that period of time when that was happening, if you've ever been pulled towards learning about it, or you know how sometimes people get in little obsessive phases, especially with history, you can get really like into it. So if you've ever had that kind of connection with that time period, that would be a connection. And if not, that's fine. Also, let's see, Middle East. So it does feel like we're going to the Middle East area, and I'm not going to be like, oh, Bethlehem. I'm not going to, it doesn't, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's it. It just feels like Middle East, or what we consider now to be the Middle East. Because as you know, a lot of times boundaries geographically change, but that's where they're putting me in the general vicinity. So keep that in mind. Now, the aspect we're looking at here is actually a male aspect. So with the male aspect, when it brings it up very vividly like this, it usually talks about whether you are playing with ideas of gender energy, okay? So for example, women would when women have a male aspect show up in a reading, easy for me to speak today, obviously, they usually are, it would be like, oh, they played around being a tomboy in their life, or they have masculine energy, you know. And masculine, what does that mean? It means just more like outgoing and I want to say not aggressive, but you know what I mean, like putting themselves out there, like just that kind of thing. Could be masculine, or it could be just like, as far as like enjoying masculine activities and tendencies, whether it's, unfortunately, you know, we consider athleticism a lot of, like, most people, when they think of like athletes, they'll like, unfortunately, like primarily think of males. But this can also indicate that if it's a female with a reading as a male, that they may be athletic, into male things. They might be into cars or things like that, even though I don't like to say that, you know, as a general blanket of things, because I know a lot of female friends that are very feminine that are into cars, you know. So just take that as you would take that, however you take masculine, however it's defined for you, kind of thing. On the other hand, you know, when we get males getting read as women, then maybe they're dipping into their feminine energies, or maybe they're you know, that kind of thing. So it's coming up for a reason. So if you are, I guess, just toying with ideas of, or in your life, if there's been a theme of playing with energies or being different, I hate to say playing with energies, but like the gender energies, you know, like femininity, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, that kind of thing. If that intrigues you, then that would be a connection. Now, here's another thing. It could be coming up simply to direct you to look into kind of who you are and what energies you tap into most, and whether or not you might want to see about balancing it out, or whether you enjoy leaning towards one way or the other. This can be coming up for things in your life. This could be very helpful. This could be the kind of thing where, let's say you're a female getting read as a male aspect, all of a sudden it's like, aha, I get it now, that's why I am the way I am. And you can just rest easy and not like wonder about it and wonder why I'm like this, you know. Oh, well, why am I super masculine when I'm a girl? Oh, that's fine, okay, it came from, you know, I've had masculine lives, I've had male lives. So keep that in mind, play with that idea, and if you don't make connections with that, that's fine. But we are going to go to what you did with the majority of your time. I do want to say, though, I didn't mention the connection with the Middle East. I didn't finish it, I don't think, to say that if you do have a connection with the Middle East, it would be the kind of thing that would show up in like being triggered when you see photos of the Middle East, or maybe you want to go and if you don't already, you know, live there, or you haven't been there yet, maybe you want a vacation there, maybe that's somewhere you want to see or stand on with your own 2 feet. If you've ever been pulled to go and walk the land, just been kind of pulled, I guess how people feel, like a pilgrimage, like, oh, I really just need to get there in this lifetime kind of thing. So if you've ever been pulled in that direction, that would be a connection as well. It could also be Middle Eastern culture, food, music, language. If you hear it, or you've been around it, or you, again, like you kind of experience it at all and you feel connected, or it feels familiar, it feels comfortable, that would be a connection as well. So what you did with the majority of your time. So here we have the card, which is the teacher card. And the teacher card can be a lot of things. It's not about just like sitting in a schoolhouse teaching kids, you know, all the time. We get that, but it can also be about being a teacher in general, just teaching. People are born sometimes with just that kind of thing where people are influenced by them and they listen to them. And it's very interesting too that this comes up at a time when it feels like the whole like Jesus Christ era thing, is because it feels like you're connected with that. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this is a connection with Jesus. And I know I mentioned other prophets before, but I'm just going to go with the Jesus thing just so we can like make it a smoother kind of, I could talk about it smoother. But it feels like you have linked up with him or his crowd or his crew or whatever it is. And it feels like you are one of the people that I guess you would consider a disciple of his, because it feels like you are actually taught by him. It doesn't mean one-on-one. From previous, you know, I also do hypnosis regressions, like past life regressions. So it's really cool because I haven't gotten like a Jesus life come through in the readings, but I've had plenty of people who have been with him during that lifetime. during the regression. It would come through their own regression. So what has come through is that he would teach, literally people would gather and sit and listen, and it feels very much like you are one of the people that would come and sit and listen, and not only do that, but you would take the teachings and you would be someone that would spread it around, put it out there in passing, talk to someone. You were very involved in it, is what it feels like. Involved in spreading the love. Does that make sense? So it feels like you, I guess it, otherwise, that's the only teaching that I feel comes through. Otherwise, it does feel like your life was very simple, very almost like I want to say like a shepherd, like I hate to be so stereotypical with this, but it does feel like you're a freaking shepherd in the Middle East during the times of Jesus, and I just have to say what's coming through. So it feels like you do a lot of walking. It feels like you come across not a whole lot of people, because it feels like you are out in like away from a city, even though it's almost like you could see the city from where you are, but you're kind of out there. So it doesn't feel like you do whole lot of socializing, except for like what is considered common in the times, whether there's some community gatherings, whatever it is. But the socializing you do has to do with learning these lovely concepts coming through from this guy teaching them. So in a way, you could be making a connection even to that whole very simplified shepherd's life. Now, the reason that could be coming through could be, one, the direct connection that, oh, maybe you work with animals, maybe you live in the country, maybe you enjoy the, being away from the city, that quiet kind of life that it's almost like a meditative life in a sense. Like basically a connection you can make is if you are someone that really you're able to preoccupy your time with your imagination, if that makes sense. Like, are you someone that lives in your head a lot? Are you someone that makes up stories in your head, or lives in your mind, or creates scenes in your minds, that kind of thing? Very heavily imaginative would make a lot of sense in a direct connection with this person who's out in the fields doing nothing all day but using his imagination, his mind. Hold on, there's something about meditation. So what would come through is also, if you're not that way and you're opposite, this would be coming through to show you that, almost like a message, hey, if you need to simplify your life and you know this about yourself, then it's time to take the steps that you need to take in order to simplify your life. Like, get back to simple, get back to basics, get back to, you know what? It's almost like you need alone time. Like, make sure you're giving you time. Does that make sense? So that sometimes messages come through like that in the form of these lives, where it's like the simple shepherd's life, not much going on. Seems kind of boring, but really, this could be a prescription, like medicine for you, for what you might need now in your life. Do you feel like things are hectic? Do you feel like there's a lot piling up? Are you stressed out? Do you feel chaotic in your mind? Or like there's just a lot going, very busy, a lot of busyness. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means this would be coming up as a message to balance. Make sure you're balancing things so that things kind of continue smoothly in a good momentum versus getting piled up and choppy and chaotic and things like that. So if you feel like you need organization in your life, then you need to take that step to step away from life for a day, a weekend, whatever it is. Get out, do you, be by yourself. And it's interesting too, because a lot of times when I get that message for people to be by themselves, to get alone time, to go contemplate and go somewhere soothing, it's usually the water. But here I feel like this is being brought up specifically for you to get out to the country, get out to the greenery. There's something very about the green that you need to go towards versus most people need the blue, need the water. For some reason, this is bringing up the green. It's earth. That's what it is. So this can also be, what it feels like is a little message to ground. If you've ever heard of grounding, I'm sure you have, to make sure you are grounding. And this will also help you, again, with feeling less stressed or less, I want to say, like pulled in different directions is what it feels like. So if you want to kind of contain yourself and stay sane, really, if it feels like it's a message to get out, go somewhere for you, go where there's greenery, that kind of thing. So make connections where you can. Keep making connections with the teacher card. don't forget the teacher card you can connect, because I mean, that might be directly connection. You might be a teacher in this life, but don't forget that, again, like I mentioned before, teaching is also someone that just simply can be a really good friend that talks to a friend who needs help and gives advice, and not really realizing that you're actually a teacher because you're just giving really good advice. You know, it doesn't mean you have to be paid for teaching to be a teacher. Some people are, just born with that teaching energy, so keep that in mind. And this would also be coming up too, just in case you are thinking, what should I do with my life? How can I feel more fulfilled? What can I, are you looking for a second career? Are you looking for a hobby or this or that? Even volunteering kind of thing. This would be somewhere to look. What should I do? Well, look into a type of form of teaching. And I want to say it's not like, I don't want to say it's like classroom teaching. That's what I don't want to say, oh, go into a classroom and teach. I want to say like a different form of teaching. This could even be training animals, which would make sense since you're a shepherd, you work with animals. This could be a little message that maybe you'd be interested in training certain animals, or just different than the stereotypical teacher in a room full of kids kind of thing. So keep that in mind, okay? We're going to go to the first important day here. So here we have, there is death in this place card. So this is usually when you're seeing death either occurring or it's occurred and you're coming across it. The relationship here is the soul group card. Now this means these are people that you see in this lifetime that you kind of see in life after life kind of deal. Soul group, soul family, soul mate. These are people that are in your life to teach you lessons. And a lot of times people think that these are only like, oh, my best friend or my family or people I really vibe with and really love. And a lot of it is that. But don't forget people who are your enemy, people who piss you off, people that you just can't figure out, who really push you to your limits. A lot of times these people are in our soul groups too. And it's because they're teaching us really great lessons. It's just the hard way and we don't see them as friends. But if you take a step back and you look at these people who are really pushing your buttons, you see them as your soul group. These are people like once your human life is over and you're on the other side of things and you're best friends as souls again, and you're like, wow, thanks for teaching me that really hard lesson. You were a complete like douchebag. And they'll be like, I know, I really did a great job, didn't I? You're welcome. See, so it's like that kind of thing. So I feel like this would be coming up as a message if anyone comes to mind. When I'm talking about someone pushing your buttons, if anybody comes to mind, trust that that is the person we're talking about. That person is part of your soul group, whether or not you like it. And they're helping you learn a lesson. And this usually comes up to remind people, take a step back, look at the big picture, look at how you're growing, look how you've developed because you've had to deal with this jerk. Right? So in a way, you can say thank you to those jerks in your life. And in a way, this is how you can move forward and grow and develop by forgiving people. Because this is a beautiful little gift where it's like, hey, look what you're learning from someone who's pissing you off, but you can forgive them because if you can see the bigger picture of how you have gotten so much knowledge or experience, patience, learn forgiveness, whatever it is, you from this person that otherwise you're like, I cannot stand them. That's a boon, it's a blessing, it's a gift, right? So when you're able to see that, you're able to forgive easier. When you're able to forgive, you are raising your vibrations. Forgiveness raises your vibrations. It puts you in a state of grace, and that's really high. So keep that in mind because this will help you get through dealing with people you don't want to deal with. This will help put things into perspective, and it will also help you from, if let's say you get really angry, this can really help you from exploding or bottling things up or this or that when you realize, oh, okay, this is for my own good. I signed up for this. Now, what's happening on this day though, what it feels like is, okay, it feels like we are looking at you walking into somewhere seeing death. So it feels like people were killed. It feels like people were killed for, I want to say that we're looking at this whole like weird religious thingy going on. So we're looking at that whole like, Jesus isn't being liked, and it feels like people that were almost like helping him in some way were killed. And it feels like almost like, oh, the government wanted to kill them or whatever was back then. I don't know if we would call it the government, but there's a sect of people in power that want to take out his followers is what it feels like. So it feels like we're looking at a small massacre. It feels like one large, almost like you're walking into a pub, if they had pubs back then, and like a couple tables worth of dead people kind of thing. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but that's what it feels like. So it's like you're walking in, you see this, and it's deserted otherwise. I'm just trying to get some info here. Okay, so what's happening is you're being faced with your potential fate. So you're seeing that, I see, so this happened to these people, and these are my people, and this could happen to me. So in a way, it's almost like your faith is being tested. Isn't that interesting? So it's like a test of faith, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to back out? You're going to, like, be scared and just go back to what you knew? Or are you going to keep progressing forward with this new phase that you feel drawn towards? So this would be a message for you in your current life, specifically this, like, is there something happening in your life where you've made all these changes, you're going through a transition and things are going well, and then you hit a roadblock where it's either you retreat back to your comfort safety zone, or you push forward despite the icky feelings just to get through it and move forward and fight forward for what you know feels right for your future and for your life, right? So it's that kind of thing. And if nothing comes to mind now, that's fine. If nothing comes to mind now, tuck this in the back of your mind for those instances that may or probably will come up where there'll be a little bit of a test of your internal, what do I want to say? I mean, I want to say, I guess, strength, where it's like, it's so easy. It really is so easy, and you can't be hard on yourself if you do retreat back to a safety zone. But this would be kind of a message for you to persevere and push through the hardness to get to the other side of things, because on the other side of that is going to be really great rewards. It's just sometimes hard to see it. So it's like, it's easy because if you're on this path and you don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, and then you see the boogeyman, it's easy to retreat to the light you see behind you because you know what's back there. It's comfortable, and you know the boogeyman isn't there. But if you just keep pushing forward and you don't even see, the boogeyman is actually chained to the wall and can't reach you. But it's dark here. You can't see the chains holding him back, so you fear him even though he can't hurt you, right? This would be a message for you to keep walking by him because he can't reach you, and then just keep walking, because the reason you can't see the light at the end is because there's a little curve ahead. So once you make that curve, you see the brightest light. That is the analogy they're giving me to give you. So keep that in mind in times of, you know, when you're kind of unsure or uncertain on your path. And it's like, don't worry, every choice and decision you make that feels good, comes from a good place, it excites you, that's the right thing for you to take, and those choices lead you down the path you're supposed to go down. So just trust it, trust yourself. This would be a thing where it's like, hey, trust your intuition, you're born with it. That internal guidance system, that internal GPS. Now, what do I want to say about this too? Because here's the joy card, right? It's really funny because you're like, oh, there's a lot of dead people in here, and then here's the joy card. What's going on? So what's going on is the joy represents the conclusion you come to. You see these people have died. You're not happy about it, but it doesn't hinder you. And there's something very joyous about feeling the strength within you to move forward, and being approached by death or being face to face with death and choosing to move forward knowing that you might come to the same fate means that there is an ease that you have come to about death, something accepting about it. A lot of people go through life very fearful, not knowing why, and it's because they have this unarticulated fear of death and, you know, the end. What's beyond? I don't know. It's scary. But here, this aspect of you has a very, in this moment, it's like he resolves any feelings he's had with death, and he's okay with it. And there's something very freeing and liberating about that. And in that is a message itself. I mean, if you are someone in your life right now that fears death, fears the unknown, where it even can hold you back from doing certain things that might seem fun otherwise, or risky fun kind of thing, it'd be a message for you that you've already been through a life where you don't have to fear death. You've come to resolve with it, so, or a resolution with death. So tap into that. Don't fear death. Don't fear the unknown. Don't fear uncertainty. Don't fear what you don't know. Rather, try to replace any fear you have with excitement and curiosity. And that will push you through, and that will also raise your vibrations, because fear brings you down. So the best way to transmute fear is to replace, when you feel fear, replace it with curiosity however you can. However you can mentally do that to yourself, that's the best step you can take. Okay? And it's really interesting that they're putting the joy card with death. A lot of times people are like, these are complete opposites. But you know what's really funny is, like, when you die, the actual act of death doesn't hurt. There's no pain in the actual act of death. Leading up to death might be painful for some people, but death itself, and then after, so there's so much confirmation that there is incredible feelings of joy and fulfillment and like wholeness on that, in that precipice of death and beyond. And this is not saying, you know, to like be like, I can't wait for death, but this is saying, like, don't fear it. Don't it's like, don't give energy and power to fears that you don't know anything about. It's like, you aren't dead, so you don't know what's over there, like, technically. I mean, even if you're a medium, and even if you've had, you know, maybe you've had near-death experience, who knows? But as a human being, generally walking on planet Earth, we don't know 110% for sure what's going to happen, kind of thing. So what does worrying do? Worrying does nothing. Fear of something you have no idea about doesn't do anything for you. So that's what it's saying. It's just like, transmute any fears that are unfounded, especially if fears are unfounded, because then you're just piling on worry and fears, lowering your vibration. There's no point in that. Get rid of that. It's very human. Like, you have to realize fear is very human. Tap into the spirit side of you that has no fear. And go with that. And I'm not saying don't fear anything, because sometimes the, you know, fear, red flags, things like that are very helpful. That's our intuition. But I'm just saying, unfounded fears that are great and take up space within you, they don't have any place there. It's useless. It's useless space. So, I mean, it's uselessly taking up space. Clear that out and you'll have space to fill with really good stuff. So, excuse me, keep making connections where you can with this. And we're going to go to the next important day. So here we have so long, farewell, until we meet again. This card is the karmic card, and we get this a lot with the relations when it's someone, when it's someone in your life currently that was from this life where there's some karma there. There's some, sometimes it's debt paying off. Other times it's just a great bond where you're like, I will see you again, kind of thing. And then the feelings is pride. I'll tell you what's happening here. I have never gotten this in a reading, just like I've never gotten a Jesus reading before, which is kind of cool. So this is seeing him die on the cross. We're watching him die on the cross here. And I know I'm like not somber about this, and I'm sorry if that's, you know, whatever, but like, because there's nothing bad about this. Like, yeah, okay, it's obviously, I mean, like, it sucked for the however long this occurred for, and, you know, it was probably really painful, no fun, but there's so many lessons in this, and, you know, Jesus himself, you know, he signed up for that, and he knows he signed up for that. He knows what was going on, kind of thing, so it's really hard to, like, feel super sorry in the sense of, like, the heaviness that comes with, like, that sorrowful grief of someone passing in that way. It's like, no, it's more of like a weirdly joyful thing, because he signed up for it in order for his message of love to get out even more. It wouldn't have happened. Like, the message of love he had would not have gotten out to the extent it has had he not gone through this kind of death. And there is a knowledge of that amongst his followers, even though they're sad to see him go, of course, and it feels like you're amongst them and you're watching the death, like one of the gatherers, either from afar or right there, whatever it is. It feels very much like you are there witnessing, watching, and the sense of pride comes in because it's like you're watching it's like you're watching your greatest hero be even greater than you've ever seen or imagined he could be. That kind of thing. Like, you're already impressed by your hero, but then it's like seeing your hero, like, save like 1,000 baby orphans from a fiery building and dying from his hero action. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, like, it's ridiculous. Like the pride is like knowing that he's gonna be okay, knowing that like you're witnessing something earth-shattering in that moment that's not horrible, but it's like you can see, it's almost like in that moment there's a collection of you, like you and the followers, the gather, whatever it is, you're all sharing a moment and you're all sharing a feeling, and you can feel that this moment in time is so powerful, important, and meaningful beyond what anyone knows. It's like and I'm getting goosebumps right now. It's that feeling. Like all of you got goosebumps at the same time, because you can all feel how this would affect the history of the entire world from here on out. That kind of big, profound moment is what you're a part of, and that's where the pride comes in. It's not the bad pride kind of thing, like overly proud. It's like this beautiful, compassionate pride. The karmic card, I feel like, comes in with the soul group card. I feel like it's kind of like this, and I feel like it's the soul group. I feel like your soul group with Jesus and the disciples and the followers at that time, it's like they all came in. You all came in at one time in order, some of you to teach and preach, others to learn, soak up, and pass along. And you're one of the ones that learned, soaked up, passed along, which is also in a sense teaching. So it feels like you are in that group, which there are plenty of souls. You know, you might have actually come across people at this time in your life or in this lifetime where you feel a bond or a kinship with them, almost like you've known them a long time, on the same page. And it's very likely you were in this lifetime together as well. But the so long farewell card is saying goodbye to this person that you have loved, that many of you have all loved as part of your soul group. And it is, you know, it's sad, you're going to miss him, but again, the sense of pride at his heroicness, the heroism. So yeah, so keep making connections where you can with this. I do want to sit here for a second and get more, because I feel like there's more from this moment. It's about also this message of not being swayed by people around you who feel certain ways. So it's very easy, especially if you walk into a room and you could feel the room, if you can read a room very well, if you're empathic, it's very easy to soak up people around you, their feelings, and kind of blend into those feelings. And I feel like that's something that you stood apart from here. It's almost like you were observing from afar, like you can see, it's like you could see the people, like most people were like horrified, or some people were happy at his death, or some this and that, and you were able to like step back and see all these people and feel out how they were feeling about it. And then here you are, it's like you're separate with your group feeling this. It was like a very small group that was able to in this connected feeling. So I want to say it's almost like a message to like step back and don't allow yourself to get pulled in to, let's say there's an argument going on, let's say there are sides to be taken, let's say there is a group of people and they're angry, whatever it is. Just make sure you don't allow yourself to be pulled into an emotion without stopping, and like make sure that you are basically, it's like make sure you recognize all the emotions you're feeling are yours. Make sure that the emotions you're feeling are yours. Make sure that they're not the feelings of the people around you, because it feels like you soak them up. It feels like you're able to really soak up feelings and emotions. So make sure you are shielding yourself or doing whatever you can to keep yourself separate from other people. Especially because it feels like if you are someone that you feel like there are people that are, I guess, have you ever heard of the term emotional vampires before, where they kind of drain you of your energy? Being aware of that will keep them from draining your energy, because once you're aware of things, then you're able to put a stop to it mentally. Like you just put the intention of like a wall between you and them. And it just feels, again, just like the message is just make sure that you're not allowing yourself to be swayed or pulled into other people's BS, okay? Keep that in mind. Keep making connections where you can. Look into shielding techniques, because those are like legit and they work. So keep making connections with that. This can also indicate if you're someone that's really if you're good with change, or you easily adapt to things. this death happening, and how you felt about it. Again, that could be a connection, is where you're someone that is able to see the bigger picture, and you are able to adapt and change and all that good stuff. On the other hand, you might be someone that has an opposite connection, where you are so smoothly going along with this, understanding the bigger picture that in your current life. You could be someone that has a hard time with change. You see how you could be making those connections. So anyway, keep going with that. We're going to go to the death over here. Now this is the disease card, the illness card. I'm trying to see what's going through here, because when I put this down, it just felt like it wasn't like it doesn't feel like, oh, it's the plague and you have that like the plague has got you, like that kind of disease. It feels more like old person disease. So it feels like you have lived a long life, and it feels what they're showing me is like joints hurting, like fingers hurting, stiffness, arthritis kind of thing. And it feels like we're looking at something that becomes like what we would consider very, very hardcore arthritis, where your joints just really hurt by the end, where it's not like sharp pain, but it's just like, it's just achy by the end of your life, just really achy, and that follows you through to the death. It doesn't kill you, I don't feel like, but it definitely leads to you kind of embracing death, like, it feels a lot better over here, that kind of thing. So if you, the only connection you would make is that if you find that you do have stiff, achy joints, or if arthritis runs in your family, then you chose a family to carry on this soul memory of DNA where there is arthritis and there are stiff joints. If you are experiencing stiff joints, as I crack my knuckles over here, sorry. If you are experiencing that, you can try to alleviate it through meditation or hypnosis, knowing that it stems from another life. So keep that in mind, okay? Doesn't mean you're going to experience it though. If you haven't already, or you aren't, it doesn't mean you're going to. It's just what happened. So don't feel like, oh, it's attached to me, you know, that kind of thing. It just explains that if you do have little achy joints or whatever, that's where it comes from. So the lesson. So here we're looking at the boundary card, boundaries. Now it's really cool because it feels like in this life, it feels like you really let a lot of things into your life, like you soaked up a lot. Something about like there are no boundaries when it comes to learning and listening to people. And I feel like this is coming up because it's carrying over to your current life, where it's saying if you find that you are hard-headed or stubborn when it comes to changing your mind or listening to people's opinions, being open to adapting to change once you hear someone's opinion that might differ from yours, this would just be a reminder for you to just kind of, again, step back and just allow and listen and see how you feel about other people's opinion. You know, give it a chance is what it is. It feels like it's saying, hey, give people's other, how do I say this? Give people's ideas that differ from yours. There we go. I can talk again. Give people's ideas that differ from yours a chance. And if you don't agree, that's fine, but it's something about almost just like a message of, hey, give people a chance, give certain experiences that you may be closed off to, give it a chance. It's almost like if you're someone that is like, that loves to learn, or you're thirsty about knowledge or anything like that, the way to go about it is by giving experiences, circumstances, and people a chance that otherwise you might not have. So this would be kind of like a thing where usually you would speak up in a conversation. Try instead to not say anything and listen before responding, if that makes sense. This can also, though, mean boundaries as far as being open to change in general, just because the change that we saw here in this lifetime with, you know, this and what you were learning and all that was so, back then, I believe, what do you call it, radical? Today, it would kind of be like how very, 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 very conservative people, or like, it's radical in the sense it's like, almost like today, people who believe that dinosaurs didn't exist all of a sudden step back, shut up and listen and see the evidence, and then they're like, oh, okay, I can see how dinosaurs existed. Like, I know that's a weird example, but it's that kind of thing. Like, basically, make sure that you are not so stubborn in some of your not opinions, but so stubborn in some of your ways. Make sure that you are aware of how you're stubborn in some of your ways, because it might be really wise to check in with yourself in certain ways that you are not flexible, and to see about trying to be flexible. Especially it feels like when it comes to certain relationships, where that flexibility on your part might really help. And it's even if you feel like other people need to be flexible or you feel like other people need to change, the change has to start with you if you're aware of it, okay? Keep making connections where you can with boundaries. And yeah, so there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections here. And thanks for letting me read you.